Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Angel and today I am going to talk to you about some of my favorite books of the year so far. So my first book of the year that was my favorite of January was The Dream Daughter. Excuse my notes here, had to write a couple notes, but The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain, and that is about the main character is Carolyn, and it takes place in the 70s, but it's also a time traveling concept, so a little bit of it also happens in the 2000s whenever they time travel. And Carolyn is pregnant and her husband has died in the Vietnam War, and she is pregnant, but she goes to the doctor and finds out that her baby has a heart defect. And in the 70s, they didn't really have anything that you could do. So basically the only option was to get an abortion, which she was not going to do. And also you could have the baby, but the baby would pass away very quickly. So her brother-in-law, Hunter, who she's living with, her brother-in-law and sister, says to her, hey, I actually know how to time travel, and sends her into the 2000s to get a surgery done on her baby while it is still in her stomach. So that was a very good book, a very good audiobook. I loved the audiobook. And definitely my favorite book of January. And I definitely want to read more by Diane Chamberlain. So that is my first book. And then my second book of the year that I really loved was Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. And definitely had a hard time choosing between The Dream Daughter and Concrete Rose for my favorite book of January. Concrete Rose is a prequel to The Hate U Give, and it's just about Maverick and him being a teenager living his life, but also how he ended up having 2 children and things that happened there, how that happened. It was a really good YA book, but also me as an adult, I was like saying don't do that, why are you this stupid? So, but still a really good book. I'm so glad that Angie Thomas wrote that book and we could get back into that world of The Hate U Give. Made me really want to reread The Hate U Give. I probably will do that soon, and I definitely want to buy The Hate U Give and Concrete Rose and maybe read Concrete Rose again, we'll see. And then another one that I absolutely loved, I read it at the end of January, like I finished it like the 31st, and I loved How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams, and that was just such a great romance. Also listened to the audiobook on that one, and does have some trigger warnings for domestic abuse, but basically Naya is the main character, and then we have Jake, who she falls in love with, and she's a professor, and the school that she teaches at, they are kind of having a hard time with finances and wanting to make cuts and things like that, and she's just having she's really stressed out. And so she goes out with her friends and they make a list, how to fail at flirting list. And she meets this guy Jake at the bar where they hung out. And turns out he could possibly ruin her career. That's all I'll say about that. But it's a very good book. I loved it so much. I could not wait for another book by Denise Williams. She is coming out with another one this year that I'm very excited for again. So definitely loved How to Fail at Flirting. Another one is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. This was my first book by Tiffany G. Jackson. Definitely not my last. I definitely want to read some other ones, but they are very hard-hitting and make you think about things. This was a book that I would have loved to read as a teenager. It was just so, so good. We have Enchanted, who is really in the music industry and really wants to become a singer, and her parents are like, no, you need to make a more realistic goal. Like, you can do that for fun and everything, but you need to make a more realistic goal. Well, she meets Corey, who is a music producer, and he kind of persuades her like, oh, come with me. I'll help you make this album. I will help you get this career that you want. Well, he ends up taking advantage of her, and reading that story was very heartbreaking, very interesting, and I definitely wish that I definitely wish that I would have had that book as a teenager. It was just a very good book. I loved it so much, and I love the audiobook. It's marketed as like a thriller, mystery thriller. It's a little bit of mystery because Corey does end up dead, and she's like wondering if she did it or what happened. So it's a little bit of a mystery, obviously, but it's also way more than that. It's more like a dark contemporary. And then another book that I absolutely loved, I actually have right here. This is the only physical one, but I definitely want to get those other books in a physical form. Another book, Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I loved this book, and it intimidated me so much because it's a lot of pages, and I do not read long books. I like shorter books, but I wanted to read it before I watched the show on Netflix. So I actually had this. I got it from a thrift store a while ago, I think in like November or even maybe before that. So I already had it, and it was coming on Netflix, so I needed to read it. And it is about two best friends, Kate and Tolly. They met whenever they were teenagers, and I love the way this is set up. It goes the 70s, 80s, 90s. I love it set up that way. And Kate and Tolly just shows their friendship and them growing up. Katie having babies. I just loved it so much. And then the last probably 50 pages of this book just made me cry so much. So obviously this was my favorite book of February, and I just loved it so much, and I want to reread it, but like whenever I'm ready to cry, I will reread it. And I definitely want to read more Kristen Hanna. I have read The Four Winds and the sequel to this, Fly Away. Fly Away was very good. Still very sad. I don't think I cried in Fly Away. I think I gave that like a 4-star. But this is a 5-star. Going to be my favorites, in my favorites of 2021. And I cannot wait to read more from this author. And then the next one is Today, Tonight, and Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And this book is about Rowan and Neil, and it is their last day of school. So they are seniors, last day of high school, and they end up spending the last day of school together, even though they don't like each other, because they have been kind of competing for years and years to be the top. So Neil ends up being the valedictorian, and obviously Rowan isn't that happy about it, but in the end, they really end up talking about, like, why are they competing so much? Why have they been doing this for years and years? And they end up playing this game that seniors play, and they end up obviously falling for each other. It's like a hate to love YA romance. And I read the X Talk before I read this. The X Talk was a very good adult romance for her first adult romance, but I absolutely loved Today, Tonight, and Tomorrow, and it will probably be my top book of March. We are almost done with March, so I mean, unless I read something better than that, that will probably be my top book of March. So those are my 6 books that are my favorites so far of the year 2021. If you liked this video, please like it and subscribe, and I definitely have a lot more video ideas planned and ready to get out for you guys. Thank you for stopping by. Bye.